Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Ksenia Barton. I'm a product marketing lead at TikTok. So specifically, I'm focusing under our AI-powered automation solutions and products, which is driving super fast. And on another side, I'm also helping global brands how to use our products and what are the best practices, how they can really use cultural insights and all of the innovations which we are offering and turn it into real business outcomes. And before TikTok, I was at Sapient Nitro, now Sapient Publicis, driving digital transformation, which it seems like it's always something new is coming and we need to implement content management system that time, now all about AI. And after that, I was at Lego as part of the global social media and digital engagement team and looking after the brand strategy. So really kind of all about balancing the traditional brands like Lego and moving super fast at TikTok.
All adult fans of Lego love that job, so. Lori?
Hi, I'm Lori Martel. And the real throughput on my career has been really using data to make financial decisions accessible. So I'm a huge open banking advocate, open finance advocate, really spent most of my career in banking, wealth management, capital markets, and insurance, and how to use data in those areas to create digital transformation. And today, I've moved over to the private market side. So I work for a company called InvestorFlow, and we create software to help asset managers raise and deploy capital faster and engage their investors along the way. And so in that, we've built some very verticalized AI to help the deal go faster and help money come together quicker. So I was kidding around when I first looked at the panel, and I'm like, okay, we've got one person that moves at the pace of culture, and the other one that moves at the pace of capital, which is a little bit more risk averse. So.
Great. Right. So AI, as Lisa pointed out, has kind of moved. Oh, I need this. Kind of from experimentation to kind of a business imperative now. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressures. There's cost pressures on infrastructure. There's regulatory increasing pressure, and as well kind of pressure from shareholders now to what's the ROI coming out for. So the first question, I guess, is to you, Lori. Well, what are you seeing organizations that they move beyond pilots into genuine innovation, and what separates those companies from those that are kind of stuck in the experimentation mode?
Yeah. I think the way that I was thinking about it is kind of there's been two errors, and we're kind of entering a second error, right? Like the first error, and I'm in software, has really been around when we're selling software, it's about experimental revenue, right? Everybody was willing to go get the technology, play with the technology, see what they could do with the technology. It was also very output driven in the first error. So how many signals could you get? How many data sources could you bring in? How many summaries can you get out, right? So even with the surface or the interface being chat, right? It's all about the output and how much synthesized response that you can get. The new error seems to be moving more into the area of it's not about the output anymore, it's about the decisions that the output enable, right? And so how do we move more into that decision layer? And it's got to be about the outcome from those decisions, not just the technology to enable it, right? And so the way we're thinking about it is how do we move from just looking at the LLMs, enabling it, surfacing it in our workflows, just as signals and summarizations, but into that decision layer, which actually has to take the signal, create memory and context around it, apply it to skills and agents, manage that across the entire ecosystem, and actually get to an outcome that matters.
And where are you seeing companies that are struggling with that? Like what's the things that they aren't able to get unstuck from?
Just that it's very generalized. We're going to make this work faster, right? But is faster better? And so their outcomes are just like we're faster, better, bigger, but it's not actually making a difference in the value, right? So that's the stat that everybody is saying. It's only 5% ROI, right? Like just to have more data, more output isn't going to be enough anymore.
Right. And Ksenia, is that related to that for brands and marketing? Is it all about speed that they're looking to change, or like what's the impact or an opportunity for brands right now?
Yeah, I also just wanted to jump what Lori mentioned about implementation into the workflow and kind of moving like faster. Like our AI products and automation solutions are implemented into the workflow. It is like helping you to move and drive the campaigns and your results faster. But in terms of barrier, what we see now a lot, that's actually people are losing this control. They don't want to move so fast. They are losing this control. They treat AI solutions and products as a black box. So actually, we were repositioning our products from like scale it, like just trust the algorithm or use our automation products. We totally repositioned it because we see that people want to be involved. It's pretty much like you are driving the self-driving car. Like you still want to have got this ability to pull, to adjust. So we now, just like a month ago, we actually including this manual, modular like features to give control back. So I think it's all about like having this like balance of like how it can move, like help you to move faster.
And are those like conscious breaks like in the process, like with the human in a loop term? Is there conscious breaks in your process that like this is the decision point that people get re-engaged with it?
I think it's like I think it's also a psychological thing that you want to feel you're in charge and you feel like you know your audience better, your campaigns, your legacy. I think also we are all a bit scared that we are going to lose our jobs. So you kind of like, no, there is a value in me driving all of the campaigns. I know it better. So, however, we know that if you are fully going like with automation, we know that it's like 3 times giving you more ROAS. Like we know that it's like saving you time, but it doesn't work. Like we are human, we are driven by our emotions and sense of safety. So even if all of the data is showing, trust the algorithm, go with automation, actually like we need like to have a step back and like give people control in this feel of like that they're in charge.
Okay. Laura, I wanted to ask you about like accountability in AI, and one of the things about deploying an AI solution is it cuts across a lot of different parts of your business. It cuts across technology, governance controls. Who's ultimately responsible for like driving adoption or the risk management when it cuts across the entirety of your enterprise?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to actually start with the outcome so that the accountability has to be around what you're trying to do with it, right? Define that, right? And in our world, one of the things we're trying to do in the investment world is get to the investment committee faster with the right information and with the right data. But then also recognizing, and this is where we were on the banking side, is that every step along the way, everything that you just mentioned, like the business process, the data vendors, they're all in the financial supply chain, right? And you have to have transparency and traceability across them so that you can map everything back to.
Are you finding clients doing that? Like, would the the firms you work with have really good defined use cases and ROI defined up front?
Not yet. They're still experimenting with figuring out what is the right one and what is the different outcomes that they can get to, right? And then when they get to it, they're like, okay, we're gonna go with this vendor to help us get to this outcome. But now, what does it look like to do all the third-party risk assessments, right? And look across the entire chain. And right now, they might just look at the LLM. They might just look at the vendor who's providing that, and not at looking at themselves and how they're going across that entire chain on that cost, right? So it's got to be both sides of it, adjusting the risk across the financial supply chain, and anything, as well as that top line output.
Are you seeing like organizations looking for a single kind of point of accountability for the entire use case, or is it still really kind of segmented across the business?
So I think it's really funny, even as a vendor going in and talking to like large financial institutions, what they're really doing is creating this patchwork quilt of service level agreements, right? It's not gonna work, right? How are you gonna figure out who's the point of accountability in that entire place? Is it the people? Is it the machines? Is it the people who are selling you the machines, selling you the data? And so right now, it's just this patchwork quilt, right, that we have to get more of a straight line process through.
Right. Ksenia, talking about ways of working and how what we're talking about change in the adoption you were talking about and just trust it. What can a brand do when there's like a paradigmatic shift in how they work? And like what kind of response should they have to that? Because particularly in marketing, there's like agencies and specific ways of working. Have you seen that impact in your AI adoption?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about AI in marketing, I think mistakenly we sometimes like think how much more content we can create, but like how big a personalization we can create here. But I think we need to go like back to the roots, like what this is changing. And we always are starting our strategy and everything from the audience perspective. And what's really like fundamentally happening is our audience are changing their consumer behavior. Before we created a whole processes when we are planning and executing, people click, like people browse, they engage, and they click. And now it doesn't work. Now everything is happening at the same time. They start their journey like at the chat GPT, and then they move now simultaneously. And we like see now across a lot of our research that discovery and decision making is happening on the different platforms where we actually used to do. So I think it's about thinking in the more wider ecosystem. We need to create, we need to, like, again, like I don't want to use the phrase like marketing funnel is dead, like it's, yeah, I know. So I think it's all about creating like an ecosystem where AI is telling you their intent, and then how people then are going and validating it within the community and looking at the specific how it's driving results with creators. And then here is coming the value of the brand as well, because you can get all of this, and then it will be 3 running like top brands. And this is where brands should create the meaning and trust and value. So say like you are, like a person is coming to Gemini and asking like which saving account to open. The AI will give you like top, I don't know, 10 banks and accounts. Then we see across our like recent thought paper and research that people need this human validation. Yes, they see all of these top accounts, like top banks and recommendations. They will go to Reddit, they will go to TikTok, they will read about like what is the best, what should I trust, and then it's the power of the brand is also kicking in. So it's all about the long-term game and recommendation culture.
And what's the biggest impact, like shift that you've seen in your role or your teams? Like what's like this, we're not going to be in this business or this type of work, you know, in a year's time. Is there, have you seen that kind of impact yet, or like what you're positioning for, or can you say?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm also like, I'm teaching marketing in the School of Marketing, and like that question I'm asked actually a lot from my students, like, okay, what's the future, where should we go? I think like in all of this transformation and AI been really great at scale and execution, I think we need to, like the strategy, the regional creative thinking, that's becoming really important. So because we are creating this meaning, AI is scaling this meaning. And I think that's across our marketing and like product strategy. I think we'll probably like delegate the scalability execution to AI, while we need to be, and brands should create meaning.
So you're still going to need people.
Hopefully.
I want to switch a little bit and talk about the kind of regulatory environment and risk a little bit, which affects both of your industries in different ways. But again, there's increasing, like the EU AI Act is, kind of being slow rolled into implementation this year and a little bit more next year. From an AI perspective and use cases, Lori, what do you think firms should do to accelerate, to kind of catch up with the regulatory environment and that's coming, and what should they slow down? Are you seeing use cases that should be maybe scaled back?
Yeah, I think in a regulated environment like financial services, you want to accelerate the decisions. Anything that makes the decision be better and quicker, you accelerate. But you slow down anything that makes the decision for you. Don't take the human out of the loop. At the end of the day, somebody has to be accountable for what that is, either in liability or in outcome, right? So how do you make sure you're just accelerating everything into it, everything that goes into the deal, everything that goes into identifying capital and getting more investors in, bringing more in, and actually just unlocking where all the data is across their entire life cycle so that they can have the right signals at the right point.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting off from my clients working in kind of quality engineering pieces that the volume of change now is the controls can't keep up with it. So they weren't built to scale at the pace that people can generate code now. Have you seen a model that works where you can kind of deal with the scale while keeping that agency over the decision making while still kind of keeping pace with the rate of change?
I think we're still developing them. In fact, aren't we using AI to try to keep up with the volume and simulate exactly what we have going, what's going on in it? At the same time, trying to understand, the challenge is what happens when the AI hallucinates, right? And so it's not binary if it's right or wrong anymore in the quality. It's like a degree and a range of that, right? So it is hard to keep up right now. And so how do we just keep putting incremental controls out that that are going to be new, that we haven't thought about? A lot of compliance controls like people think are just binary, yes or no, and there'll be layers of what that is across the board.
Ksenia, I wanted to ask you a question about this one because it's slightly different. And it more along, I think TikTok just published the rules around authenticating human created content. How does that work, from an implementation perspective, like the controls that you need in place to find out when something is AI generated versus human and the labeling that's required to do that? Is that something that you have like an automated pipeline to test for that, or?
So we do see the AI slop is really flooding all of their platforms, and I think Pinterest is especially flooded with this because it's an image-based platform. Of course, you can easily generate videos, and there are we are flagging when it's AI-generated content within the special, AI generated. But this is exactly.
And is that just straight AI-generated, or is there can you differentiate between AI-assisted generated or just straight?
So it is straight to the
Okay.
AI-generated, but now even us, we just launched our AI video-generated platform, Dramina Sedans. I know it's my alter ego. I just it's a very interesting name. But yeah, it's actually even we are pushing for this video generation, AI-generated tools, just to keep up with the creative supply, because we recommend to have got 6 creative assets a week from brands, and they should be distinctive. How you can do this, keep this authenticity. But I think that's exactly where the value of real human creators are coming in the world just being AI generated, and you will see that it is AI generated. How you keep this authenticity, and that's why focusing on influencers, real creators who you know the background history, that will be super important. And we know that Unilever this year allocated 50% of their marketing budget to influencers, to creators. They know that they are driving this recommendation, they're driving authenticity, they're driving trust. So yeah, I think it's we will see more and more AI slop, but
Do you
this.
think we're on an upward trend with that still?
Yeah. It's kind of like the chicken and an egg kind of. People are demanding more content. Brands are generating more content. They have no capacity and tools to do it in their such a demand. So it's kind of like, yeah, we are living in this dopamine culture. We want fast, more, and brands try to supply with this, and the quality is really going down as well.
Just to add to that, one of the terms that is being tossed around a lot right now is judgment and taste, right? Like you can't just have all of the extras, right, that go with it, but like what kind of taste goes in that? And that's like that combination of authenticity and that creator and what the human brings into that, right? Is how do we cultivate taste across all of the data and all of the inputs and all of the outputs?
Do you think there are like specific use cases in financial services that should be like non-starters for weak controls, or like where should a brand focus their energy around a specific type of use case that is going to have big impact potentially?
So I mean, this is what the EU Act going into existence on August 2nd, right? Like anything to do with credit and underwriting, right? Anything that actually manages the actual money itself and making the decision point around money, anything that's high risk associated with anything with fraud that can understand and make a deterministic call or a non-deterministic call should really be looked at. But if it's just moving the decisions forward and equipping people to make better decisions, like hold off.
And do you see much impact kind of from a cross-border perspective? So there's a couple of Yanks up here with the Russian, so we're all in the UK.
Yeah.
What about like the differences? Because the US has a much kind of, I'd say, looser framework for AI governance than what they're trying to do in the UK or in the EU. I mean, is there much consideration to be paid for that?
So we're all still learning in this world, and each region does it a little bit differently. But the EU, it's funny, it's taking a little bit of a different view, right? The UK got involved really early in competition on the banking side and said, hey, regulator, you need to step in. On the EU side, now they're having the regulator step in first, and the UK and the US are always gonna let the commercial sector decide, right? But all that really does is the commercial sector can decide, but it's going to decide through a whole labyrinth of liability, a whole labyrinth of falling into it, a whole labyrinth of getting sued and passing that on, right? And so it's just time and money, right, around how we each handle it, and is how do you create a level playing field, and each region's doing it differently, and we'll continue to do it differently.
Ksenia, I wanted to ask you a kind of follow-up question from something that Lori mentioned, which is around kind of taste and culture. How do you, with labeling AI content, how do you ensure something's like authentic, or what does that word even mean anymore in the context of AI generated? It's so easy to create this content these days.
I think even thinking why TikTok became so popular and scaled so fast compared to Meta and Instagram, because it was rooted into this real me, authentic background. People are speaking they're not showing off. Actually, we see this what it called we call it millennial pause. When you start to do some video and you firstly make sure you're all right, then press and then have got this pause. Gen Z, they're just talking while putting the phone, and people really want to see messy bathrooms, messy life, all of this. So I think that's kind of rooted in what we want to see, and why also TikTok became so popular. And I think it's important to understand what we are as humans are good at, and we are good at generating culture. We are good at generating emotions and experiences. AI can pick this sentiment from Reddit when we are describing it. They will never be able to feel it. So I think here it's very important to understand where we are good at. We are really good at generating culture, and this what's really important. AI is great at scaling this. They're good at scaling different versions of this to the right people, in the right time, with the right version of this. But I think this authenticity, to know that it's you and you have got the history behind it, it's important. I think also a great case, it's it was a famous artist who've been repainting very close the pictures and the paintings, and people think oh, that's this artist made, and people been buying his work thinking it's I don't know, Salvador Dali, but and they've been valuing this so high. But then when this fraud came up, actually the same pictures were just crushed and devaluated, because we want to attach real story, real human, his authenticity into everything. And I think that's relevant for all the content we are doing.
Right. And you also got the opportunity to do what that person did and rewrite that or smudge that entire face on that Caravaggio or whatever she did. So I want to kind of bring it back a little bit to kind of measurable business outcomes. And the ROI debate and discussion is all over the news right now. People burning through entire yearly budgets of tokens in a quarter, and there's a lot of pressure to kind of is this stuff going to actually make some money? So Laura, I want to shift the question over to you to talk about what metrics would convince you that a business process had been changed or enhanced, as opposed to just kind of compressing or speeding up an old broken process?
Yeah, so it was funny. I recently went to a conference of all executives across the C-suite talking about how AI was impacting every role. And the first piece of advice that they gave was take your CFO to lunch, right? Get to know your CFO, because the days of just cha-ching, 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 you can experiment with everything are leaving. And so one of the things that we talked about as a group was this idea of an outcome cost efficiency ratio, right? And the idea that if the metric exists today, all you're doing is using AI to optimize it. If the metric doesn't exist today, right, that's real transformation when there's a new metric that comes out of it, and then you can understand what is the cost of human capital to do that today, and what is the cost of the AI capital to do that. So you get both the top line and the bottom line kind of in that. And what those CFOs were saying, and there was a good 5 of them, and I'm the product person talking to the finance people, and they're like, we want to see this. You can't, let's put ROI aside, because that assumes there's a top line profit. Just get me to that cost efficiency ratio.
What's a bad
a good
metric
example.
You see them, like a heuristic for okay, these people aren't going to be in business in a little bit?
Well, I mean, even I think Uber, what came out recently too, and they said they blew through all their tokens, right? It used to be well, how many lines of code can we generate per, with AI? How many lines of code and how many tokens? Let's base everything on token-based consumption, and now it's going to value-based as opposed to token-based, right? And so it shouldn't matter how many lines of code or how many that are AI generated. It should just matter on what the outcome is and the value that it brings.
Do you think, sorry. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, do you think an organization just write off some of this AI investment is just it's table stakes to be in the game now? So it's we were talking about ROI beforehand around marketing and the difficulties of drawing a line.
I feel just that first era that I talked about at first, these last 2 or 3 years is write it off, right? CFOs are go ahead, go try anything. And now we're expanding that, like, okay, it's not just your AI innovation team and your technology team that can do that. You know, we're expanding it into the whole rest of the organization playing with it, but it's going to be controlled, right? Like, so it's kind of moving slowly out of that era of you can just spend whatever you want to find some kind of efficiency and to show me the money. Right.
I just wanted to echo the take your CFO to lunch thing. So
Yeah, exactly.
actually, we have got a lot of our CMOs, but like when we are chatting to them, like they're asking, like, how can we convince CFO that marketing work, like how TikTok works, and like we are bringing to them all of the like engagement and reach and impression, and you're just like please don't bring this vanity like metrics to them, just like. And we even like we have to work on the like thought leadership, like, and educate the CMO and marketers that everything you're doing, you have to connect it to the business outcomes. You have to connect it to P&L, like even like TikTok campaign, how it is actually driving your incremental value, so incremental revenue. And we really need to start like refocusing from like the attribution, like last click attribution, into how much value we are bringing. So that's why we are really trying to shift also the industry, especially in the era of AI. What is happening? The user journey is actually disappearing. So if before we could track the clicks from Google, like to your website, we could actually see this. Now it's a black box. It's actually the user journey is becoming invisible. But from the measurement perspective, we're still using very legacy old like metrics. And from marketing, it's like last click attribution. So I think we need to stop doing this and start really like measure more business outcomes and incremental uplift and share of search and brand lift with all of the experiments and MMM, just to see the influence which you're doing.
So if you're looking at that in terms of like some of it is a black box now, what are some like signals you'd want to track to see like, okay, maybe we need to pay closer mind to this or dig in a little bit even if the performance numbers look good, but there's other signals you might want to monitor, around the black box?
I think here it's like, first of all, I think like personally we need as an industry also introduce new metrics because we're entering the recommendation era. Like we need to think of metrics like share of recommendation, like share of search, like from the LLM models perspective, how we are performing there. Because right now we are living in the age of attention. We will live in the age of recommendation. So we need to actually invent some new metrics on this one. But also we really like need, of course, from the performance side perspective, to pull it back to the P&L from the brand perspective, because the power of the brand is coming back. We need really to focus on the perception shift, on the brand lift shift, on the strength of your brand. So, but it's more experimental, like it's more incremental and MMM for the wider picture, rather than like to focus on your attribution.
So last question here. We got to know each other a little bit beforehand. We've talked a little bit today. You both work in very different, industries. What do you think, you can learn from each other from this conversation or chatting about what banking can learn from social media platforms and reverse?
Yeah, I think financial services could learn from the culture side to just try things and move faster. Like how about shipping within a couple weeks something that you've tried, but still keeping the controls, right? Like you just got to be able to do it faster and have access to more and more data to do that. And then on the other side, right, the platforms could learn from like the chains of audit and liability, and like how do they take all of that into effect to make sure you're protecting those who you're serving, like up front, right? And so it can be a real good blend.
Yeah, totally agree with Laurie, and also coming from the Lego, it's a family-owned brand. It's like the amount of brand policies and brand protection. We had this, like the innovations, and JP knows about this. It took like months to actually to introduce any innovations. And then I moved to TikTok, and I'm just like, whoa, what a rocket ship is this? Because like we are living in the culture of like, it's MVP. Everything is MVP. We're just kind of like doing this, not doing this. Like, but it's like, that's how you're testing what's working. I think the good balance is great, because I think we're losing sometimes trust introducing some products. People are testing it, it doesn't work, and then we're like taking it back. But I think also for banks, it's important. I don't know, I personally feel that banks shouldn't compare each other to another like bank, but actually banks should start to compare to another digital experiences which people are experiencing. So because if we're like, when we're living in the era when Uber can show you the car right here, right now, or Amazon can predict what you want to buy before you even start searching, like, consumers are asking, like, how does it take like a week time for me to renew the new cards? Like, it's just like, I think we need really to bring this experiences and experimentation culture from the platform side. But as Laurie said, like, we need also to bring this governance and trust and accountability from platforms. But from both, I think from platforms and banks, I think we need to keep this customer obsession, because everything is about customers.
Well, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, so in San Francisco, we've moved on from Uber to driverless cars. Like now it's the Waymo, so like that becomes the everyday kind of standard again, but with the trust and reliability. You ain't getting in that car unless you're gonna feel comfortable getting to the airport in it.
Well, I just want to say thank you both very, very much for taking time out of your day to be with us today, and for sharing a lot of insights and information. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it back over to Pete or Mike or whoever.